Black Community Meeting at work. So, and I'm on the planning team for that, so that's a lot
Bless your heart.
of scrambling to get all that together for over 600 African Americans down at Jack Casino. So, yeah.
It's just us. It's a family kind of get together. And topic is the shift toward mobile first, which has been going on for quite a while now. Brenda and I were kind of brainstorming about, a good topic. This was 2 years ago. This was actually something that we were also focusing on with the kids in the camp. And then we had a new administration, and that just sort of went to pot. As of last year, our kids still knew how to do it. Like last year, they did what they're supposed to do, and they made it move already. Okay. All right. I like to talk about what has happened. I always have to give the history because I've been almost back at the beginning of history when it comes to this stuff. So we talk about drivers and trends, Internet of the impact of the Internet and different technology platforms, where we are now, where we're going to go, and then some of the issues as I see it. Okay, I always start out with Once Upon a Time. And I was back here. My first job was a draftsman. And actually, going back to high school, I had 4 years of machine drafting. My first job at Western Electric was electrical mechanical drawing. I drew equipment drawings and I did wiring drawings. Less than a year after I started, it went computerized. All of the wiring drawings went computerized. If you can believe it, we used to write up these sheets for input cards, and those cards were used. They ran a program against it and it generated all the wiring drawings. Physical drawings, we still did it by hand. Anybody ever heard of Mylar? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That was my first job. I used to draw on Mylar. I used to draw on this, they had this paper for changes that had to go to the field. And I hate to get into this, but I had to do a change on one of these paper drawings. And they had electric erasers. And I erased a hole in the drawing. It's like my third day, and it had to be redone all over again. That was one of those good jobs, and it used to be in demand. Once upon a time, knowledge was transferred through oral history. Some folks still do that, paper and pencil, typewriters, the abacus, stone tablets, it just sort of goes way back. And we're moving a lot ahead now. Things were slow then. It took a long time to get anything done. Then the computer showed up and things got better. And over time, from the time of the IBM 360s, there were lots of applications developed for lots of things, but it really wasn't good enough. And the demand for software applications, productivity just went up and up and up. There were some good things about the IBM days, though. Security was not as big of a deal as it is now. And IBM put lots of restrictions on you so you couldn't mess up. In my professional life, I never did that much with IBM. I started doing development on the Unix platform. And Unix will let you get wild. So computing devices became ubiquitous. They're everywhere. But we needed more access for more people everywhere. Yes. One of the problems that we had, Ty may remember this, the applications that we developed for depended on a mini computer and people having terminals at a location to connect to it. And this was actually before the internet was really popular for applications. So sometimes within AT&T you had to have backup locations. So we had a work center, we had all of the equipment, and out into the hills of Kentucky, we had to have a duplicate center so that if something went wrong,
Yeah.
those people could go out there and do their job. And the internet solved a lot of those problems. Okay. Everybody knew about the 4 nodes, 1969. Did you know what they were for? The government funded them, but mostly what they were used for is there were 4 research centers. For research papers, they were actually done on paper, and they had to be circulated to many people for review. And you can see this could be kind of madness. You got a 40-page paper, and you have to have 12 reviewers, and you have to ship it out, and they have to review it, get it back, collate the changes, and it was a real problem. So DARPA funded a project so that researchers at 4 installations could put their could actually put their papers online, and they use something some of you guys know about FTP. They use FTP to move these papers around from site to site. Now this was blinding electronic speed compared to what it took to just pass all these papers around and review them. And things grew from there. Internet access actually did grow exponentially. And about 1996, about the time that AOL came along, with 56 kilobits, things start to really grow where you had a lot of people that had the internet. In a lot of the companies, including ours, I work for Bell Labs, we had it a long time before it was available to the public.
What did bulletin boards come in at?
Bulletin boards were before 1996, see, about 1992, 1990. Well, they came in a long time before that, but they turned into websites right around 1996. Yeah. Because just to give you a story, I have twin sons, and they were in high school. They were like sophomores, and they had one of these bulletin boards, and it used to be real cool, You had bragging rights because it was up, and people could communicate with you, and you had your home page, and they were handling email. One of them handled the back end, the other one handled the front end, and this went on for a while. I'll tell you, one of the things that killed it was, well, 2 things. One is people start complaining, I'm not getting my email, and this is free. They're doing this for free. The second thing is Tyrone, who did the user interface, sent out a survey. You know how that goes. And people started telling him how crappy his user interface was. And he says, I got to do my homework, I got to take care of this, I'm running cross country. So he let it go. But it actually was a good experience, because when they started going for their interviews for, when they were like freshmen trying to get internships, the company they had was called Saturn Internet Services. And so they had that story about Saturn Internet Services. Startups weren't as big a deal then. Well, people were trying to do startups, but they actually had a story, and they had customers, and they were trying to grow it and all that kind of stuff. So Intel was impressed, so they got Intel internship. Bandwidth, like in about 1996, was about 56 kilobits. And so it has grown since then to megabits now. And now, and later on, we got content such as music and high-resolution video. Back in those days, you didn't have music, you didn't have high-resolution video. When compression came along, MP3, that was the beginning of really good video off the net. So we had a big leap forward. Okay. Then you guys remember AOL and MySpace, and then finally Facebook. And that's when a lot of people got into using the web. And then you remember Amazon. Amazon really wasn't a big deal in first. They sold books, so what? I mean, they weren't revered like they are now, you know. And you know how that story turned out? And then along came Wi-Fi, which gave people more access to the internet, more capabilities. And so the question is, have we done everything? No, we need to do more, and we need to have access by more people. We need to have all of the people on the web. Then came the phone. The phone is a bigger deal in places like Africa and, you know, other third world parts of the world. Because actually in Africa now, that's how they do their financial transactions.
Yeah.
They do it over the phone. So that was a big deal. And most of the people on the planet have it now. Now, I'm being a little sarcastic here, but this is, you know, I talked to my junior son is a finance guy. And, you know, he deals with spreadsheets and he deals with costs. And when they talk about systems, you know, his thought is, we got to move everything to the web. And it's a good notion, you know, but it's more than a notion and requires a lot of thought. So the thought is, and the thought was when I used to be a development manager, just put everything on the web. It's a great idea. It's easy. Let's go ahead and do it. I'm not going to give you any money to do it, because that was kind of the other things. So you end up trying to figure out how to do some of this stuff, you know, squeeze it in, and you don't have any budget to do it. In a lot of cases, it was just kind of fun. I used to hire interns, because I could do whatever I want with the interns. And I said, okay, you're going to work on a HTML project for the internet. It was just something I want to do. And when we had to do video conferencing, like in 1996, we started doing video conferencing. Had the interns work on that, and I used to work with it. So we connected up. And the thought still by the marketing people is, it's really great stuff. We're really moving ahead. I'm glad I had that idea. But generally, it's just taken too lightly. You know. Video editing, like if you want to edit this movie, it's a lot of processing power. They do have editors on the web, but if you really want to do a good job, you're going to need a lot of horsepower. A desktop computer that, you know, has a lot of memory and has a fast CPU. 3D printing is another CPU hog. I'm sure some people are 3D printing from the web, but if you're doing that at a serious level, you need to process them local. Some video games. A lot of video games are on the web, but a lot of the super games are still run on a local computer. Another thing that comes into play here, when you think about running applications on the web versus running on a local computer, you have this bus on a local computer, 64 bits, and they have nanosecond transfer time. And so with the web, you have to go to the web and you have to come back. You go to the web, processing is done, and you get some return. And when you have it all on that local computer, you don't have to go to the web. That bus is a lot faster than the internet connection. Even with the 200 megabit pipes that a lot of people have now, there's still a lot of cases where, and everybody doesn't have, you know, that 200 megabit pipe, where it just makes more sense to run the application on desktop. And we're still going to the web increasingly, but there are times when, you know, it makes sense to just do it the way it was done before. Okay, another thing. This is my desktop arrangement for one of them. That's the one that's upstairs. Mm-hmm. Some people need a lot of screens and they want to do a lot of things at the same time. You can't take your tablet you know, look from screen to screen, like that one on the right is grades from another system. The one in the middle is Blackboard, and then I might have email on the other side. And that could be, you know, any 2 or 3 applications. So a lot of times when you're a power user, you just can't operate with a tablet. I mean, you can, but it's slow. I tell people a lot of times about a case in the camp one time. There was a kid who was doing PowerPoint presentation on his phone. And you can do it, of course, you know, but I always, does that make sense? You sit up there, and you know, you could have a screen, a laptop or something like that, you know, have it knocked out. There was another kid I remember doing code on his phone. That's not unheard of, doing code on your phone, you know. Right. So kind of the thing to all of that is that, you know, sometimes it doesn't make sense. Use the right tool for the right kinds of things. Okay, so I'm with it. Small devices are dominating, and they are. And so there is a mobile responsive web design, which has been out for some time. And there are tools, and there are languages, and particularly style sheets that make it easier for you to do this. You can also take advantage of a lot of features that are built directly into the browsers. A lot of what happens, whether you're doing a local website or you're doing a tablet, is in the web browser. The web browser recognizes web browsers recognize all types of HTML variations, particularly with style sheets. And JavaScript also is interpreted from a web browser. So that stuff is all local client kind of stuff. And you can take advantage of that and make applications run fairly well on small devices. There's also something called HACT, because one of the problems when you're using the web is it seems like things, they may not change as fast. And there's a capability called AJAX that does this continuous refresh. So even on a phone that's connected to the web, if you have pretty decent bandwidth, it looks smooth. It looks almost like it's a real application that's running on a computer. Now you need to know about all of this stuff, and you need to figure out a way to incorporate it. Okay, arguments for mobile response. They render well on all size devices, and by writing specifications with style sheets, you can make it look a certain way on a tablet, a certain way full screen, and in a different way on a smaller screen. The key to most of this is style sheets. And media query is just one of the tag types for style sheets. There's something called a flexible grid-based layout that also lets you do relative sizing. And you know, on sites like Amazon, that they spend a lot of money, they can also shrink the images, or they can resize the image. That's a nice trick. And if you're doing just sort of a regular kind of thing, you're probably not going to mess with those images too much. And a truly responsive site will contain all. When you're designing one of those sites, and I'll show you an example of something that I did for our BEPA Sensing websites, I have to decide just how much am I going to put into this thing. So I went to the point that I made it work. But I know that there's even more that I can do. But you know, I don't have hours and hours and hours and hours. You know, if you are doing this for Amazon, you can spend enough time and you can tweak it enough and you can get it right. Typically with these things, you're not going to do one model and just have it be perfect. You know, so you'll do something, you mock it up, and then you got problems, and you fix it. Okay. this with this thing. Probably had to click on the button. Okay, I have a link to something that I did mostly with HTML. Okay, this is some information and 3 images. And as I if this is responsive, as I resize the screen, this should change to still show all the content, but fold it in so that it's still viewable. And with this one, it's just not it's got a little bit of style sheet, and it's just plain HTML. So it wasn't a big deal. And when you do simple things, you can get away with stuff. So what happened is, where did I got out of sync. Okay, here we go. All right. So you see it resynchronized so that to this side screen. There's a tool on here which I'm not going to go to. There's a tool that will show you what the different sizes are. Yeah, there's a simulate in both Chrome and Firefox. They have simulators. So you can simulate the way the screen supposedly will look once you get to small devices. I'm going to tell you something though. That simulator is not the same thing. Things work a lot better with these simulators than they do with the real devices. You get the real phone out. And it kind of works like that, but they've done things with the phone that you're not going to be done with these simulators. But as I make it smaller, and this is the whole notion. Like if the screen is longer, it reformats it so that the same thing that I saw as full screen, I can now see on a small screen. It's just reformatted. Before I get to you, I'll tell you something else about cell phones. Cell phones let you do scrolling, and you have to get your style sheets just right if you want to restrict that scrolling. On that survey that I'm going to show you, I have restricted it. But when you get a chance to see it, it's still going to shake a little bit. And I noticed that when Amazon does it, there's no wiggle. They're freezing. And I'll get there, maybe, but probably not.
Now, don't they create a style sheet for each device type?
These style sheets are general. There are some things like that exist, but in general, you create a style sheet that goes with a certain grouping of screen sizes. Mm-hmm. Like, let's say the iPhone 6 Plus and Samsung Galaxy 8.
Yep.
All of those
they all have different resolutions.
Different resolution, but they're all kind of in the same size. So it's going to be similar. And then there are phones that are actually smaller. And so what you do with your style sheet is you have like a filter in there to say, well, if it's within this range, I'll use these style settings. If it's within the tablet's range, I'll use a different style setting. What I'll also tell you about that stuff is that there's a lot of playing around. And I'll show you what I have in a second. So that's this one. How much time do we have?
2 minutes.
How many? Okay, I'll get the examples. All right, I'm going to show you Amazon. Let's start it up first. Okay, now this is Amazon. Open up Amazon on your phone.
Don't get me to shopping,
Huh?
Stays open.
How
Well,
about
this will get you started
On the
because,
browser now.
because you can also, you'll be able to do it for a survey. But Amazon is gonna take just the right stuff that they want, like, they want you to be able to buy stuff, and if there's anything that's specialized, you know, they're gonna have that in the frame. It's not gonna be kind of as nice as this. Because like, if you think about this scenario, I could have Amazon up in this frame, on another screen, I could have Home Depot, and then another screen, I could have, what's the other place? Lowe's. And a lot of times I will do this, you know, because I'm looking for something. And I just do comparison, I look back and forth. You notice how their screen is very defined. Let me see if I can.
It's defined to what I last looked at and what I last bought. What I see.
Let me see what you got.
Oh,
This is the only time we look at pictures of people on their phones or Facebook.
You know, I thought about, and I have problems with those kids and these phones. And I thought about, you know, if we do something like this, now this is not the way it looks on the home,
Access to Wi-Fi.
but on your phone, you see the results of some very
It's
good,
behind there.
you see some very good style sheet manipulation to show you the essential stuff. And, you know, you can go from there. They don't give you the whole thing. I'm going to show you a reference on W3 Schools. W3 Schools has some really good, and the reason this one is good is you also see the code.
Source, yeah.
I'm going to tell you something. This particular, they have more than this, but this particular line here, that is magic. If you put that in the header, then it tells that browser, the browser is going to try, the browser on your device is going to try to match the screen size of that device with just that. And then you have other things that you want to change, like you, in one of these examples, they changed the font size, but you could change the border, you could change the width of any field, and you do that with your additional style sheets. But just putting that one line is going to take it from a website that's displaying all over the place, down to something that you can actually see on your browser. And I just call that like that's a magic tag. When you're using the queries, there's a lot of other tags, so a lot of ways of doing it to get the results that you want. But, okay, I did tell you here, this is 668 by 508. And resizing this is supposed to give you different media points. Oh yeah, you can see it from here. The color changes depending on your style size.
Use the other corner.
I know, he's gonna post it.
Use the other corner. A little easier.
Okay, let me do this.
You can drag it.
Yeah, you can actually drag it to the side too. All right, if I go this way,
See, results of size has changed.
What background change? I don't see.
Result size. Up there top right.
Oh.
Changing the result size of the screen.
Okay.
yeah, I thought this one also changed the colors. Let's see. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
you got some code in there,
Colors
change
should
the color.
change. Yeah.
Landscape, portrait. laptop.
Oh, there it is.
There it
The
is.
color, I was looking for the color.
Oh,
Gotcha. Okay.
This is what I need to change. Okay, yeah, that's what I need to change.
Oh,
The
gotcha.
size of this window.
Yeah.
And you see, it's all done, you know, it does kind of like a case here based on the width. And you have a background that represents, this is a class, and then the HTML, that class will be represented, and it will change based on your width size. And this is basically how this is done, except for you're just gonna use a lot more of this. Another thing that I can tell you about it is, with the thing that I'm gonna show you here, I should have optimized it, because I got about 12 or 13 styles in there. It's unnecessary, but it takes time to sit down and figure out how to optimize, you know.
Mhm.
And since I'm just doing this, it doesn't matter. But, you know, if you were doing this for like a serious project, then you spend extra time to, you know, make it as perfect as you can. But I'll say this, W3 Schools has a lot of, it's actually got a real good demo of how you do, what are we talking about?
Websites and mobile apps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mobile,
It's a web.
responsive web.
Yeah.
You know, there's no one, if you read about this stuff, there's not like a good single answer to the way you do things. It's kind of like if you design anything, you know, you sort of have an approach to it, the basic things that you need to do, and then you take your approach. For instance, one of the things that I like to use is Visual Studio, just because I like Microsoft tools, and if you have problems, you can find answers, because a lot of other people use Microsoft tools too. Even Microsoft is responsive. When you use a lot of the open source stuff, it is free, of course, but answers sometimes are hard to come by. You know, not to go too far off target, I'm bringing up this server with Red Hat 7. It's really CentOS, and I'm actually putting a mail server on it. There's almost nothing out there. I mean, there are people who have half-truths here and there, but on this new version of Red Hat, not a lot of people have done it, you know, so you're just kind of winging it, you know. Anything Microsoft, and I don't own any stock in Microsoft, they have good documentations. In worst case, if you want to sit on the phone for a long time, you can actually talk to somebody at Microsoft, you know. So that's kind of where I like Visual Studio. Last year at the conference, they made us use, everybody was limited to PHP, so we had to use NetBeans. Of course, we did pretty good using NetBeans. You know, that was our second best finish ever. But I still don't like using NetBeans because it's just easy to get work done with Microsoft. It's a little editorial. Okay, back to examples. I'm going to go to our survey. Now, this is go to this on your phone. It's www. Can't see it. www.epa-cincy.org/mysurvey.aspx.
Say it again.
www.bdpa-cincy, .org/mysurvey.aspx. And actually, this would be a good test, because I've only tested it with a Galaxy, but I'm fairly sure it'll work with most of the other phones.
You wanna see what mine look like?
Let's see what yours look like.
I got some double letter.
Double letters. Oh, okay, what is that?
The text overlap.
Oh, okay.
Okay, text overlap. Okay, text is overlapping, but you still can see the form.
That is correct.
But you told me that, so I can fix that. It doesn't overlap on mine.
I get that too. up top.
Yeah.
Okay,
Text
so,
overlap
so
as
we
well.
have, what kind of phone you got?
Galaxy.
I do
Or
too.
maybe
So do I.
maybe that's a result of my last change.
Oh.
In any case,
Yeah, if you switch
let me see if yours
orientation,
overlap.
you-
Okay, all right, I messed up on my last change. So go ahead and take the survey.
If I turn it this
Okay.
way, it's okay.
Yeah, it's gonna look right horizontal, but I see, each one of those items is custom positioned. And even though you don't see it there with the big screen, this is a good test.
Look at us getting all fancy.
Brenda told me I need to do one
She
for,
said, step it up.
for attendance also.
For attendance.
Yeah.
Just folks to sign in.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, no, just like,
Yep. Pop a
Just
QR
like the
code
computer
in there,
can.
let folks in.
Hey,
Yep.
I can also do it where you could just send a text.
Yep. You send it
Send
there.
a
Wow.
text.
And
Yeah,
it automatically send you that link.
yeah.
Yeah.
wow. That means everybody gotta be in the database.
First time I can collect information.
You mean for send text, that means you need everybody's phone number?
You can do a short code. You can tell people to text X
Oh.
to this number,
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be
and it
awesome.
automatically
Yeah, or
send them a
actually,
link.
or actually text to their website.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's pretty cool.
yeah. All this takes time now.
I know.
Plus, I have this frustration factor that kicks in. I gotta go read some papers.
I understand.
Okay, did everybody take the survey?
Yeah,
And what it should say, it gives you a message from Brenda. It says,
Yeah.
thank you for your survey.
yeah.
Oh,
So-
I
so-
just noticed that.
Brenda also has a page that she can review these.
Oh, nice.
And,
Well done.
You can sort them.
Future topic.
If we know just what kind of stuff we want to extract, you can also do other reports, but the big thing is just kind of get it in the database. And actually, having it on these phones means that it's easier to get it, because, if people have to wait until they get to a computer, it may never happen. But everybody carries that phone with them.
Yep.
Okay.
Well done.
Show you something else that's coming.
Thank you.
This takes care of another problem that we have. Okay, we have, this is what's happening in the future, and I'll introduce something else to it. I'll just give you something that some of you know about it, and some of you don't.
Look, what can you do for me?
The site is going to be connected to our bank account. The membership people, this is a list of people to go after. Here is the link. Tell them to click on this link. They could do it with their phone, and they could set their membership up. Money goes into the bank. We know who they are. We pay national, and, we're not caught up in cash flow kind of problem. So by November 1, I'm fairly sure I'll have this working.
I'll check with you.
No,
Before I put it in
put me down for
Wait a
that one,
minute,
because that is something that is really,
I'm
really.
working on this
Im-
newsletter whenever I crank it out. He'll be ready by then.
And this is gonna be, well, it's pretty much mobile responsive now. I don't know, I'm looking at it here. Go to join and see how it responds. You probably can find the same kind of problems that you found with the other.
Mine looks good.
Yeah, looks good.
Does it scroll? Okay, so when we get this set up, membership will be able to just talk to people, send them a link, tell them to use their phone, and put the money in.
Put the money
I can
down.
join right away.
Woo-hoo.
So I'm waiting for,
Good job.
we have this deal with PNC Bank. We actually get kind of a discount on this authorized.net account because we we use PNC Bank, and they have a deal with it. We can go back to PayPal when they come up, but PayPal's, if we get a lot of money, this is gonna be a lot more efficient, because you can just get it quick. You don't have to wait for it. Pages on the site that interact with the members or the outside world, they'll be mobile ready. I even thought about an app, a native mobile app, a BEPA native mobile app that has the same kind of stuff on it, which is doable. You know, it just takes a little bit more time. We're gonna be
But you could-
we're gonna be the technology chapter.
Yeah, but for the, you could just create a page that if somebody's coming in from their phone.
Yeah, but that's what this is. But you also can get, and I haven't got to why you'd want to do a native mobile app.
Okay.
It's just present on their phone.
It's present on
I mean,
your
it's not
phone,
inconvenient, it's a convenience
And
factor.
it's just a one-time
and
thing.
it's faster,
Well, yeah, because
and you can do more branding.
it really could be just a stub on the phone, but most of the, all the functionalities is
Yeah.
in the website.
You can do that.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay, you're talking about a specific app, like you go out
You-
to
we
the
could have-
store and get, yeah.
No, it's like you could go to the store, or you don't even have to put it in the store. You know, if you have the, if somebody sends you the app, you can just load it on your phone.
If you're an Android.
Yeah, if you're Android. This is gonna be an Android app, because I don't have an Apple computer,
Just
so.
up for account, yeah.
You have to go through a bunch of hoops that.
Yeah,
you know,
but
now-
it has to test well. And, you know, I'm not totally mad at them, because, you know, you get some quality when you make people jump through
Yeah.
hoops.
Yeah.
Isn't that right, quality person?
Quality.
Make it too easy, you know. People do all kinds of
That's
things.
the Wild West out there.
Yeah.
Frank, if they join like this, how, will interact with National as far as them showing up on the
Oh,
polls?
what we
or-
need to do with National, Debbie already does this. Well, actually, you do it partially, because you go and put them in there.
Mhm.
I don't think that's a good way, though. I think if we give them a spreadsheet with all the information in it, they can put it in. Because I know the way you're doing it is time consuming.
Individual
That's what-
entry into their site? Is that how you get them in?
That's how he does the
Yeah.
kids.
They don't have a bulk upload or?
Unless they go online and join themselves.
Right.
Renew themselves.
Yeah.
But we don't have it made to transmit our local
They don't have
to the national.
they don't have a bulk upload mechanism. They could, though, because all you need to do is give them an SQL file. And, you know, they use some SQL database, and so they could load it in, as long as they tell you what the field names are. I'm willing to do that, it's just not a big deal. You just need, it exists, and if you fill that out, it will go to the database. Now, some things need to happen, like it doesn't have a trigger where it takes you to pay for the authorized account yet. And it's not gonna give you an acknowledgement right now. The other thing that usually you do with these things is it will send an email. Every time somebody puts in a membership, you guys get an email saying there's somebody new in the database. Yeah, so that kind of stuff is not in there yet. But by November 1, it'll be functional.
Where's this running?
Oh, it runs on my server. Where else would it run?
Where else would it run?
We, you know, in the old days, probably up until maybe 2007, we had this app. And the one that we used to have was, as far as doing reports and things like that, it was better than the National. Give you 15-day notice, give you 45-day notice, and you know, all kinds of other reports. Not to put down that website is actually pretty good. I mean, it's pretty, and it has a lot of functionality that nobody knows how to use. Because I remember from the time when I was president, there were all kinds of things that we could do, and I ask questions about it now, and nobody knows. So, but for right now, anyway, this is sort of the direction, because the other one's just too slow. And this shall be edited. Okay. All right, this is another sort of example of a style sheet. And what this does is that if this screen has a max width of 480, then you use that style sheet. If not, you just do nothing. And that's basically how these things work. Okay, I said I was going to talk about native apps. And the definition is it's actually a program that runs locally on your phone. And it's fast, and it allows a lot of customization. And if you have something that you want to run real fast, you want good response time, then you want an app. Sometimes people just want an app. You know, it's like Amazon has their website, but they also want to give you an app. I want to cover all bases. Okay, better for branding, applications run faster, data can be manipulated locally, don't have to have a round trip to the site. You can also use it when you're not connected to the internet, so that's a good one. Okay, this link, and this is just a link to, this is an exercise that I do with the kids in camp, and we're not going to go all the way through it. But I have a YouTube channel. And this is out on my YouTube channel.
Hi, this is Frank Hill, and I have a video here to
I'll stop in a second.
Mobile apps using Android. And the tool is going to be Android Studios. And the application is a basketball ticket application.
A lot of things I do with the kids is some form of a calculator.
And the application will calculate the price and taxes and associated data. So let's take a look at what the application looks like now. Okay, so I'm going to show you the screen, and then we'll go through the steps of actually.
This is about a half-hour video, so we're not going to do this.
Android Studios.
But
This picture shows
That's
you
basically what it
the
is.
finished product.
and we
will
do this
like.
for the most part in like one
The
class
rest of the video
session.
goes on to
I'll tell you
describe
another secret.
how we get.
This used to be a Windows Phone application. Everybody has Windows Phone. With Windows Phone, we could absolutely do it in one session. Android Studios is it's not as user-friendly. It needs a lot of processing power. You need 8 gig, at least 8 gig of memory. One of the problems we have in the school, those computers have 4 gig, so you have to use tablets or phones or something if you want to get some efficiency. The other thing is that you have to learn Java, which is a little bit harder than Visual Basic. Visual Basic actually is the best training language. If you just want to teach somebody from scratch and you want to have some success early, you do it in Visual Basic. You can learn C#, C++, all that other stuff later on. But if you want to give somebody like a painless start, then Visual Basic is good. And when we did this with Microsoft Phone, we used Visual Basic, and it was easy. Visual Basic also has built-in Visual Studios have built-in simulators that really work. If you want to build yourself an app, you're going to have to get a tablet, or you're going to have to use your phone, and there's a lot of cockpit errors. Plus, Android Studios itself, it's a little hard to install. Once you get it installed and you get it working, you can roll. And I can say that about a lot of these software development tools. Your biggest fight is just getting started. You get it in there, and you got all of the fixes in, and you get all the updates, and you can actually start off to do stuff and have it works. But then there's a big fight to get there. What this video assumes is that you got it downloaded and it's working, and then similar to what you can do with Visual Basic, even though it's not good, like those widgets on the screen, drag and drop, kind of. You just have to mess with it a little bit more. And you have to learn have to learn Java. They're worse languages. I mean, in a lot of ways, Java is easier than C. And I don't expect the kids to be like experts, you know, because like with this kind of thing, my approach is that, you know, the first part of this, I'm gonna give it to them. And then you can get so far. And then I'm gonna ask you to do things based on what you've done before. And so you sort of build on that. And if, like, probably by the end of like, what's his name? The last kid to leave, who was the last kid to leave?
Oh, shoot. I can't think his name.
He went to one of the Atlanta schools. James.
Yes.
James is pretty good at this stuff. James is pretty good at a lot of stuff. But, you know, he's been working on this, for the last 4 years, he's been working on all kinds of projects, the kind of things that we do in camp. I got an interesting email from him. I asked him the first week was, how was college life? And I got an answer that I really didn't expect. He said, I'm taking introduction, he's in a computer engineering program. I'm taking introduction to computer science and calculus. And so far, it's easy. I'm
Wow.
thinking about getting a part-time job.
Oh, my. Slow down.
I didn't say anything behind that.
You just let it go. He might be
But,
looking for your opinion there.
No. He went to Walnut Hill, so he's kind of well trained.
He knows what he's doing.
And, you know, he's passed the AP Computer Science test, which means he's, you know, plus he's gone to the competition 4 times.
Oh, he knows.
And
He knows what he can handle.
He was the leader for 3rd place last time, so, you know, he's ready.
Catch up.
Yeah, the thing, yeah, it does catch up. The thing about, well, I'll tell you something universally. Kids who stay in this program 3 years, they pretty much kill it when they go to college. You just can't come in 1 year and, you know, have it just doesn't work that way. And the other thing too is that they need to sort of want to do it. Like, he was the kind of person, and you guys probably know Yara Sante, same way, they wanted to do this stuff, and they still do. I mean, they're just into it. Okay. This video is there. I have a YouTube channel out there. It's got a lot of stuff from my YouTube channel. Parts of this presentation will end up out there eventually. I'm out of time. So let me go back to my,
Resume at the top.
okay. Yeah. Okay, that was how to create mobile apps. And this, I'm just gonna talk a little bit about this. Some of these tools are good for like everything. Visual Studio is good for creating websites. You can also create like native C programs, C++, and pretty much anything. NetBeans does the same kind of thing, except it's more open source, and people use it for PHP and they use it for Java. Visual Studio is not that great for Java. NetBeans is a lot better for Java. You also get a lot of help from the web browsers, Firefox and Chrome, when you're doing any of this stuff. It's not in the context of this, but if you're ever doing anything with web services, which is kind of like a website that doesn't have a user interface, both Chrome and Firefox have like a simulator in there. And the reason I do this stuff is, you know, I have these Internet of Things devices that communicate with the internet. So what you can do is you can test everything from the browser connecting to the web services on the web, just using Firefox. Firefox and Chrome have a lot of capabilities. And a lot of people like WordPress. 30% of the websites out there are WordPress. I'm not too much into WordPress. And it's a content manager just like Visual Studio is. HTML5 you're going to use for right now, that's the standard. And especially if you're doing responsive web, you're going to use HTML5. And you're going to use CSS3 style sheets. You may or may not use jQuery. I don't know if you guys have heard about Twitter Bootstrap, but they have thousands of templates out there. A lot of people who build websites today will use one of those templates. You can modify it, but you don't want to spend all of your time creating all these elaborate style sheets and stuff like that when, you know, a good part of the work is already done, you know, and it's free. It doesn't cost
Is
anything.
this associated with Twitter, real Twitter? Or is this, because I see a lot of these names, they reuse it a lot. I'm always curious to associate with the brand itself.
To me, it's not associated with the brand. It's
Okay.
like if you have Visual Studio, you can load Twitter. Twitter Bootstrap files are generic, and you can use them just with an HTML that you built by hand, or you can use them with any of these tools. And it's just kind of like a time saver. Android Studios probably is dominant for phones. You can do Apple. Again, Apple costs me money. I'm not thinking about buying. And you use Objective-C. You can also do this with .NET. You know, even though I'm a Microsoft fan, Xamarin it's not naturally Microsoft. It's one of those add-on things. And to me, anyway, it's slightly flaky.
Yeah, Microsoft just bought Xamarin.
They did?
Xamarin is a cross-platform
Yeah.
development too.
They've had it for a long time.
Yeah.
And initially, when I decided that I wanted to look at native mobile apps, I said, okay, I like Microsoft, so I'll go. I backed off and said, I'm using Android Studios, which is what everybody else is doing. WordPress is kind of a dominant for, like, I say, the non corporate kind of websites. You can see this a lot. And a lot of people use PHP and WordPress to build websites because, you know, as far as the language, it's fairly easy and it's used a lot. I'm just not a fan. I say I'm biased. Skills. You need to know HTML5. You need to know JavaScript. JavaScript is not a big deal. Style sheets is really not a big deal, except there's just a lot of variations. If you look at the code, if you ever look at a style sheet, it can get to be pretty cryptic. What you try to do most of the time, and that's what you're doing with Bootstrap, you try to find a good set of style sheets that's a start, because you don't want to spend, you know, weeks and months doing your own style sheets. And then there's Ajax, which probably 8 or 9 years ago I was fascinated with it. The reason I was fascinated is because the web used to be slow, and you can do an application and do something like bounce a ball. You can actually see it bounce on a website. Because in the background, Ajax is doing constant refreshes, so you're constantly getting updates and it looks smooth. I said Android Studio and, you know, RWD design techniques. Okay, summary. Let's get down to brass tacks. Some applications are going to still be on the desktop, like compilers, you know, especially serious compilers. There's this deal about the screen size. For instance, the eyes, some people, you know, my eyes are not as great as they used to be, so I'm not going to do as much stuff with a tablet or a phone as I can with, you know, a 24-inch screen, or maybe 2 or 3 24-inch screens. You know, the things are big enough. You know, I can see, I can switch. It's also a memory aspect. One of the things that happens when you guys may not know this yet. One of the things when you get older is you just don't remember all that stuff. You know, if it's on the screen, you know, you see it, you can cut and paste it over here. Makes things work a lot better. Okay, native apps, and I think native apps, just because of marketing, they're going to continue to grow, and everybody's, particularly all the retailers, I mean, you have to go to mobile first. Because that's a big customer base out there. Even at Christmas time, people are buying a lot of stuff on their tablets and their phone, and so you've got to be there. And in third world countries, even now, you know, 6% of people are using mobile. And you do need skills to do this. They're not rocket science type skills, but it means that you have to spend some time working on it and then connect the dots. And a lot of it is just kind of like a thought process. It's kind of like what people used to do is, well, I want to teach you how to program in C. And so now I can program in C, and I work on this telephone project, And basically, I just write C programs. You get to do a little design every now and then, but you write C programs. You know, when you do stuff like this, you're using a lot of different technologies. You have to figure out how they fit together. And you also can say, as some people say today, I'm not going to do that, you know. I used to hear this guy from Kroger, you guys probably know him. Steve said, look, I'm a program, that's it.
I ain't doing none of that.
You don't want to be project manager, you know.
He's just still
I want
relevant.
to be heads down.
He got a
in
skill
program,
set
you
that's,
know.
that's strong, that's still
At
relevant.
at Bell Labs, this never was the case though. You know, it had something called MTS, which means member of technical staff. You do everything. You know, you need to know how to do design, you need to know how to do, when you get to be senior, how to do project management. And on a different project, you may do some of all of that before you get it done. You know, it's like, you know, you're like a Texas Ranger or something like that. And that kind of stuff is going away with specialization. Specialization is coming back now. I mean, it's going away because developers have to have multiple skills. Like it's sort of rare today for somebody to say, I only do this. You know, that's gone. So you need some skills. And retailers, all of them, you know, they're mobile, they have to be. That's where their money is. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.